There is a panel mounted on the south wall of a farmhouse in Manitoba, Canada, that has been heating the interior of that house every winter since 1981. It contains 240 aluminum soda cans painted matte black. They are stacked in vertical columns inside a wooden frame, glazed with a single sheet of tempered glass. There is no fan, there is no thermostat, there is no electrical connection of any kind. When the sun rises and hits the panel, air begins to move on its own. Cool interior air enters through a small port at the bottom. The air passes through the columns of black painted cans. By the time it exits the top port back into the house, it has been heated to between 110 and 140 degrees Fahrenheit. The system runs entirely on the temperature differential between cold air and hot air. It costs nothing to operate. It has produced an estimated 1.8 million BTUs of free heat per winter for the past 44 years. The current owner of the house has measured the system's monthly natural gas consumption against the bills paid by the previous owner before the panel was installed. The panel reduced winter heating costs by 47% in its first year of operation in 1981 and continues to reduce winter heating costs by 38 to 44%, depending on the severity of the winter. The reduction in 2024 alone saved the family approximately $890 in heating fuel costs. The total material cost of the panel when it was built in 1981 was $73.40, documented in handwritten receipts the original builder kept in a folder with the panel's construction drawings. Adjusted for current pricing, the equivalent build today costs between $75 and $90 in materials. You probably have not heard of this technology. You almost certainly cannot buy a commercial version of it at any major home improvement retailer in the United States. The aluminum soda can solar air heater was independently developed and refined by hundreds of homeowners, engineers, and homesteaders between 1976 and 1985 in response to the energy crisis that began with the OPEC oil embargo of 1973. It works. It has worked for nearly half a century in the homes that installed it, and the broader American residential heating market has essentially erased it from public awareness. If you find that gap interesting, the kind of gap where a technology that demonstrably works at a tiny fraction of the cost of conventional alternatives has simply disappeared from public conversation, subscribe now, because this channel documents exactly that gap with primary sources and construction specifications. What the residential heating industry has stopped mentioning, this documentary puts back on the table. The aluminum can solar air heater is part of a broader family of devices called solar thermal air collectors. The aluminum can solar air heater is part of a broader family of devices called solar thermal air collectors. The basic principle was demonstrated in laboratory conditions by Swiss physicist Horace de Saussure in 1767 when he built a glazed wooden box with a black painted interior and recorded interior temperatures of 228 degrees Fahrenheit using only direct sunlight. The principle has been understood, replicated, and refined continuously since then for over 250 years. What changed in the 1970s was scale and accessibility. Faced with rapidly rising heating fuel costs after 1973, ordinary people began building their own versions of the principle de Saussure had documented, using whatever materials they had access to. Aluminum beverage cans turned out to be remarkable thermal absorber elements. They are mass-produced in extraordinarily consistent dimensions. They have thin walls, only 0.097 millimeters thick on average, which means they transfer heat to passing air with very little thermal resistance. They have a large surface area to volume ratio. They are corrosion resistant. They are stackable in geometric arrangements that maximize air contact with heated metal surfaces. And in 1976, they were essentially free, available in any household, any roadside, or any recycling bin in unlimited quantities. Bruce Wright, an electrical engineer from Tucson, Arizona, is one of the documented early developers of the aluminum can solar collector. Working alone in his garage in 1976 and 1977, Wright built a series of prototypes attempting to maximize heat transfer efficiency from a flat solar collector geometry. He documented his work in articles published in the magazine Mother Earth News between 1977 and 1979. His designs were copied, modified, and refined by thousands of readers in the years immediately following publication. Wright's original 1978 design, a 4-foot by 8-foot panel containing 192 cans, was tested by Mother Earth News staff under controlled conditions and measured to produce an average outlet air temperature of 124 degrees Fahrenheit, with inlet air at 68 degrees on a clear December day in North Carolina. The thermal output averaged 2,400 BTU per hour during peak sun hours, equivalent to roughly 700 watts of continuous heating power. The Manitoba farmhouse panel referenced at the opening of this video is a direct descendant of Wright's 1978 design, scaled up to 240 cans and adjusted for the higher heating demand and lower winter sun angle of the Canadian plains. The principle and the construction remain essentially identical to what Wright published in Mother Earth News 47 years ago. The physics of the aluminum solar air heater is fundamental. Visible light from the sun passes through the tempered glass glazing with approximately 91% transmission efficiency. That light is absorbed by the matte black painted surfaces of the cans, which have a solar absorptivity of 0.95 to 0.97 depending on paint formulation. The absorbed energy converts to thermal energy in the can metal. The can metal heats the air in direct contact with it. The heated air rises through the can columns by natural convection, driven by the density difference between hot and cold air. As the heated air exits the panel and returns to the house, cooler interior air is drawn in through the bottom port to replace it. The system establishes a continuous convective loop with no fan or external power required. The Manitoba installation has been operating this loop continuously every sunny day of winter for 44 years without a single mechanical failure. The construction of a standard aluminum solar air heater follows a precise sequence that anyone with basic woodworking and metal cutting tools can complete in a single weekend. The structural frame is built from 2x6-dimensional lumber, sized to the panel dimensions desired by the builder. The most common residential configuration is 4 feet wide by 8 feet tall, which provides 32 square feet of glazed collection area, enough heat output to meaningfully supplement heating in a single room or zone of a typical home. The frame's interior dimensions accommodate 8 vertical columns of 30 cans each, totaling 240 cans for a full-size panel. The cans themselves require preparation. Each can must be thoroughly cleaned and dried. The top and bottom of each can must be removed, leaving an open-ended aluminum cylinder. The cleanest method is to use a bandsaw or a sharp utility knife to cut precisely above the rim recess at each end. The interior of each can is then lightly scuffed with sandpaper to improve paint adhesion. Each can receives 2 coats of matte black, high-temperature spray paint applied to both the exterior surface and the interior surface visible through the open ends. The paint must be specifically rated for temperatures up to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Standard household spray paint will degrade and produce fumes when heated. Stove and grill paint formulations are appropriate. The total paint cost for a 240 can panel is approximately $24. The cans are stacked vertically inside the frame in columns. Each column rises 30 cans high. Vertical alignment between cans is critical. Misaligned cans interrupt the airflow path and reduce overall efficiency. Cans are typically joined to each other with high-temperature silicone sealant rated to 600 degrees Fahrenheit, applied as a thin bead around the rim recess of each adjacent pair. The columns are spaced 1.5 inches apart horizontally to allow heated air to circulate between columns as well as through them. The bottom of each column rests on a 1-inch diameter inlet manifold, drilled with corresponding 1-inch holes at each column position. The top of each column connects to an outlet manifold of the same dimensions. Both manifolds are constructed from standard 1-inch diameter PVC or galvanized metal duct, terminating in a single inlet port at the bottom of the panel and a single outlet port at the top. The interior face of the frame, where the cans are mounted, is lined with high-temperature reflective foil insulation, backed by 2 inches of rigid foam board insulation. The reflective foil maximizes radiation absorption by the cans, and the foam board prevents thermal losses through the back of the panel into the wall behind it. The glazing is a single sheet of tempered glass, typically 1/8-inch thick, sized to match the exterior dimensions of the frame. Tempered glass is required rather than standard window glass, because the temperature differential across the glazing during operation can exceed 100 degrees Fahrenheit, which can cause thermal stress fractures in non-tempered glass. The glass is sealed against the frame with high-temperature silicone gasket material. Some builders use double-glazed units for installations in extreme cold climates, which adds approximately $40 to the total material cost, but improves heat retention. The panel is mounted to the south-facing wall of the house using standard exterior wall anchors, with the bottom edge of the panel approximately 24 inches above grade. The inlet port at the bottom of the panel connects through the wall via a 4-inch insulated duct to an opening in the interior of the house, located near floor level. The outlet port at the top of the panel connects through the wall via a similar duct to an opening near ceiling level. Air movement during operation occurs entirely by natural convection, with no fan or blower required. Total material costs for a complete 240 can panel built today using new materials. Dimensional lumber for frame approximately $42. Tempered glass approximately $35, paint and sealants approximately $28, insulation and ductwork approximately $32, hardware and fasteners approximately $15. For builders sourcing salvaged glass or recycled lumber, total costs can drop below $50. For builders purchasing everything new at current retail prices, the total falls between $80 and $120. The thermal output of a properly constructed 240 can panel under direct winter sun ranges from 1,800 to 3,000 BTU per hour, depending on outdoor temperature, sun angle, and panel orientation. Over the course of an average heating season of 180 days, with approximately 6 hours of usable sunlight per day, the panel produces between 1.94 million and 3.24 million BTU of free heat. The equivalent natural gas required to produce the same heat output costs between $480 and $810 at current natural gas rates. The equivalent electrical resistance heating costs between $1,420 and $2,370 at current electrical rates. The system pays for itself in fuel cost savings within a single heating season for builders in colder climates, and within 2 heating seasons for builders in moderate climates. After that initial payback period, the panel continues producing free heat for the remainder of its operational lifetime, which based on installations dating from the late 1970s appears to be at least 40 years and counting. This brings us to the question that frames every story documented on this channel. If the technology works, if the cost is trivial, if the payback period is short, why has the broader American residential heating market essentially erased it from public awareness? If you have been watching this far, and the gap between what this system delivers and what your monthly heating bill costs has started to feel like a question worth answering, subscribe now. This channel exists to document exactly the technologies that the residential energy industry has stopped publishing, stopped recommending, and stopped training contractors to install. Every subscription helps these stories stay searchable in an algorithm increasingly tuned toward the commercial products that need monthly recurring revenue to survive. The structural reason for the disappearance of the aluminum can solar air heater from American mainstream construction begins with the magazine industry shift of the 1980s and accelerates through 3 decades of regulatory and market changes. Mother Earth News, the publication that documented Bruce Wright's original work and that of dozens of other independent solar collector developers between 1976 and 1985, was the primary distribution channel for residential-scale solar thermal designs during the energy crisis years. In 1985, the magazine was sold to a new ownership group that gradually shifted editorial focus away from technical do-it-yourself construction guides and toward lifestyle content compatible with mainstream advertising. By 1990, the magazine had stopped publishing original construction designs for residential solar thermal systems. The community of independent builders that had grown around the magazine's technical coverage dispersed without an equivalent distribution channel to replace it. The Energy Tax Act of 1978, which had provided a 40% federal tax credit for residential solar energy installations, including site-built systems documented by reasonable construction records, was allowed to expire on December 31, 1985. The Reagan administration did not propose extending the credit. The subsequent Tax Reform Act of 1986 contained no provisions for residential solar tax incentives. The financial incentive that had supported homeowner-built solar systems during the late 1970s and early 1980s simply vanished from the federal tax code, and it would not return in any form until the Energy Policy Act of 2005, which restored solar tax credits exclusively for professionally installed photovoltaic systems certified by the Solar Rating and Certification Corporation, a body whose certification process effectively excluded site-built thermal collectors. The National Renewable Energy Laboratory, established in 1977 as the Solar Energy Research Institute, shifted its research priorities away from passive and site-built solar thermal applications in the early 1990s and toward utility-scale photovoltaic and concentrated solar power research. The shift was driven by federal funding priorities that emphasized large-scale grid-connected generation over distributed end-user thermal applications. The technical research community that had supported homeowner solar thermal development with peer-reviewed data dispersed into utility-scale photovoltaic and wind energy research. The combined effect of these 3 shifts, the disappearance of the popular technical press, the elimination of federal tax incentives for site-built systems, and the redirection of public research funding, was the gradual erasure of the aluminum can solar air heater from the American residential heating conversation. The technology was not banned. No regulation prohibits constructing one. No code makes installation illegal in most jurisdictions, particularly when the panel is treated as a non-structural exterior modification. The technology was simply allowed to fall out of the channels through which Americans learn about home improvement options. It became invisible by default rather than by decree. The current state of American residential heating reflects exactly the outcome that those structural shifts produced. The 5 largest residential furnace and heat pump manufacturers in the United States reported combined revenues of $42 billion in 2023. The natural gas residential heating market consumed approximately 4.5 trillion cubic feet of natural gas in the 2023 heating season, at a delivered residential rate averaging $15.94 per thousand cubic feet, generating approximately $72 billion in residential natural gas heating revenue. The combined annual revenue of the residential heating equipment and fuel industries exceeds $114 billion. None of that revenue would exist in its current form if a significant percentage of American homeowners were generating their own supplemental heat from $80 panels mounted on south-facing walls. Bruce Wright continued his engineering work in Tucson until his retirement in 1998. He died in 2014. The articles he published in Mother Earth News between 1977 and 1979 remain available in the magazine's online archive but receive minimal current readership. The Manitoba farmhouse referenced at the opening of this video remains in private ownership, and the panel installed in 1981 remains operational. The current owner has documented the system's performance in an unpublished maintenance journal that he intends to leave with the property when it eventually changes hands. The sun rises each morning. The aluminum cans absorb the radiation. The convection draws cool air from the floor and returns it to the ceiling 60 degrees warmer.